Good afternoon. It is a sunny afternoon after a lot of rain we had this weekend. It is not finished yet, but at least the sun has come out for a bit. Today I'm coming to you to talk about NLP and what is NLP. Just a short introduction on NLP so that you can understand how you can actually use NLP in your everyday life. You don't have to go to a therapist or a counselor or a coach to use these techniques to apply in your day-to-day life. So NLP is nothing other than the study of excellence. And I have my notes here off to the side. So just to make sure that I stay on track. So yeah, NLP is nothing other than the study of excellence. And the two folks that really made NLP or discovered and evolved NLP was Richard Bandler and John Grinder. One was an expert or is an expert or historically an expert in neurolinguistics or just linguistics actually, and the other one an expert in mathematics and computer programming. And they got together and through a chain of events, they studied people, they studied therapists, and what they've discovered is that there is a model to certain therapy. There is a model to certain questions. There's a model to certain behavioral, well, actually all behavioral changes. And what they've discovered that is if you can model what was implemented, you can actually go further and you can break it down in chunks. You identify in which order it happened. And if you take that template just as is and you apply it or somebody else applied in their own lives, they will get the same output, which is great because now they could sort of understand how our brain do pattern recognition, because that's how we flourish, right? Pattern recognition is really your brain's ability to identify connections between two things, and then you can come up with novel ideas. And that's how a lot of entrepreneurs actually create something spectacular, because they are able to make the connection between two different things, and sometimes even the connection between something you historically that's part of a memory, and that's a little bit of neuroscience. You don't have to worry about that now, and it's a new idea, and you can come up with something completely different. Okay, so what they also did is they borrowed what we call the surface structure and the deep structure of language. In other words, and the meaning and the knowledge that's attached to something. What we mean by that is that on surface level, you might say something. Well, in therapy or in coaching, what that means is on surface level, people will often say something, and even in casual conversations, but what they're really meaning is something completely different and deeper than what's on the surface. So it's not quite as easy as that, but that's for now for you the only thing that you need to understand around when we talk about surface structure and deep structure. Just know that in a person's language, there's always a deeper meaning to what they are saying. Now, NLP, like I said in the beginning, primarily focuses on the study of excellence. So it looks at high levels of achievement, people that are highly successful, like entrepreneurs, high performers. It looks at geniuses, people that are extraordinary in what they do. And what these two actually did is they took that information and gave it to people that they can apply to their own lives. Now, obviously, there's a bunch of obstacles throughout that process, because otherwise everybody would have been high performers. Everybody would have been excellent in what they do. Now, you can also look at it this way. If you look at the output that you want, you can actually chunk down that entire process, behavioral process, mindset process, everything that goes together. You can chunk that down. You identify the order and you apply it in the exact same order, and you will get the same output. Now, NLP can be used in areas in everyday life. It can be used to improve communication. It can be used in negotiations. It can be used in sales. Because we do place a high emphasis on the words people use and the meaning of those words, right? And how you then communicate with what the other person is telling you, and how do you use that, use what the other person is telling you. Also, children that has difficulty in spelling and learning, especially spelling, there are therapists that only uses NLP techniques for children that struggle with spelling. And what they did actually is they did research in spelling bees, in all of these spelling bee events, to see how these kids actually teach themselves to remember these words. And again, took the process, chunked it down, identified the order, and they apply those and help children that has difficulty in spelling and learning. Can actually also, in adult learning, help people to learn faster. Performance and excellence in sport, which is my area. NLP I use with this individuals in sport to help them accelerate in sport. And then another one I also want to add is understanding the Bible and God's words on a much deeper level. If you understand NLP, remember NLP, a lot of people would say NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, is not science. You will read a lot about that. But if you look at the science and the neuroscience and science around mindset, research around mindsets that are currently evolving, you would be able to see the ties. Although NLP, do not worry about the science, because in NLP, it's about the experience. I give you the protocol, I tell you, apply it, you experience it, and then you say it works or it doesn't work for you, which a lot of people seldom say. And neuroscience obviously come from a research and science perspective, but if you understand both worlds, you will clearly be able to see the correlation between the two and in many areas of neuro-linguistic programming. And as I move through the NLP topics, I will definitely bring in some of the science and give you some resources where you can actually go and look at some of the recent research that the neuroscientists are doing around this topic. But yeah, understanding the Bible and God's conversations on a much deeper level, which is profound. Even in my own life, it was an amazing discovery for me. Now, just remember that the extent to which which processes lies outside of your unconscious awareness, to that same extent, you will be controlled by those processes that lies outside of your awareness. The moment you can bring these unconscious processes or programming, like we would call it, even in a technical language, bring that to the surface and bring that to your conscious mind, only then you would be able to identify, break it down in chunks, identify the order, and then you would be able to language we use is reprogram it, and almost like stuff it, put it back into your unconscious mind, should you wish to do that. So it's like literally taking a hard drive out of a computer. We reboot the hard drive, clean it up, and put it back into a computer, which is an interesting analogy, because we grew up with the terminology or the phrase that our mind or our brain is like a computer. It's actually the other way around. They are programming technology or programming computers to be like our brains. And we now, in the age that we are now, we see that more and more, right? Where they are trying to mimic human behavior, human biology, human neuroscience through a programmed device of some sort, whether it's a computer, whether it's a robot, artificial intelligence, whatever. So many people think when you talk about unconscious mind, and yeah, but just actually unconscious mind, they think you're going to go into some sort of cult experience, which is not the case. We have a conscious mind, we have an unconscious mind, we all do things unconsciously. When you woke up this morning and got out of bed, you did that unconsciously. You didn't lie in bed and now you have to focus, okay, which leg first, this one, then that one, then I have to sit up. How do I get out of bed? You just got up and you took your first step. Unlike a baby that's still learning, where they have to put a lot of effort into understanding, how do I get off the bed or out of the crib and start walking. You probably drove to, well, schools are not on here in South Africa, it's holiday, but you probably drove to work without even consciously being aware which road you are going to take, unless you have to dodge the potholes. But you didn't have to consciously think about the map and map out and look on Google Maps, okay, where should I go and where should I drive? You probably didn't do that. And have you ever parked at the mall, got out, well, came back from your shopping, and for the life of you, you cannot remember where you parked. And then what, at least what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to think, okay, where did I come in, and what you try to re-engineer the path you took, but then you cannot even remember that you actually came in. You cannot recall where you drove, which way did you go. So that makes it even worse because you cannot absolutely recall anything that you did. Something simple as brushing your teeth. You are not consciously focusing on how should I brush my teeth? How should it look? Which arms should I use? When you walk also, you don't think about, okay, now which leg should I put forward? Then which arm should go with that one? And how should I do? You don't consciously think about these things. These are all processes that happens on an unconscious level. And for the most part, and in the next video, I'll speak about that. And for the most part, we learn behavior consciously, and then it becomes so engulfed and so ingrained in our life that it becomes an automatic behavior and an unconscious behavior. We don't even think about it. So being consciously aware of something, you would have heard the term people use, or the phrase that people use is being present here and now, is doing something intentionally and being aware of everything that's going on around you, which is a great place to be, because if you think about flow states and you think about being in the zone, is a space where you have this heightened consciousness, where you operate from a place of absolute peak performance. It's where you feel your best and perform your best, as Stephen Kotler would describe it. Unconsciousness refers to being unaware and performing activities and behavior and tasks without even thinking about it. It becomes automatic. So your unconscious mind, and if you think about things that you've done up in this morning up and until now, you would be able to think about a lot of things that you did unconsciously that you didn't even have to think about. But our unconscious mind is responsible for a lot of behavior, a lot of thoughts, a lot of actions, a lot of things that we do automatically without even thinking about it. Now, over the course of the next few weeks or days, depending on how long we'll go with the NLP topics in terms of making it easy for you to understand. We'll see how long it goes. But in the next video, I will specifically speak about, okay, how do we learn these unconscious behaviors, and how do we process information from our environment, and how do we get to a space where you stand in front of the fridge and you know, I get a lot of clients that will say, when I sort of opened my eyes, right, I was in front of the fridge and I had the piece of cake in my hand and I stuffed it in my mouth without even thinking about it. Yes, those things does happen, but you can fix it and you can change it. So if you want to make sure you don't miss any of the upcoming videos, subscribe to my channel. You will be notified of any new videos that I've loaded, and I'll see you guys somewhere in the week again. Have a nice day.